Hello and welcome to the Product Biz Podcast, episode number 11, Making Money or Making a Machine, which is better. In today's episode, I'll be talking through how I went from being burned out, overworked, just really exhausted doing markets every single weekend, maybe something that you can relate to, and turning that into an entirely new perspective on my business, how to build a business like a machine that creates consistent passive income and how you can easily start to do that too. At the end, I'll be mentioning the free Etsy training that I'm hosting next Wednesday on June 29th at 11 o'clock Central Time. So if you're interested in learning more about Etsy, if you're struggling to get visibility on Etsy, if you want to have your products shown in the search results, if you want to connect with the warm audience that Etsy provides, but you just haven't been able to do it, then I encourage you to sign up. You can go to etsy.theproductbizpodcast.com, enter in your email address and name, and then you will get the link to join me next Wednesday. It's going to be an awesome webinar. You're going to learn my 3-step method to Etsy, how to optimize Etsy, and I can guarantee you're going to walk away with some new mind-blown experiences about how to look at your business. Are you ready to go behind the scenes and learn what it really takes to create consistent sales each and every month with your handmade small business? Join me, Monica Little, self-taught multiple six-figure small business owner and your product business coach, as I give you the insight and inspiration on how to better run your business and increase your sales in ways that you may not have even been aware of, so that your business can truly become what you knew it could be back when you first started. Learn how to let go of perfection, overcome the fear of failure that is holding you back, and finally start taking action so that you walk away feeling like you've cracked the code on how to run a successful small business. You're listening to the Product Biz Podcast. So before we jump in, I do want to mention the listener of the week. So thank you so much for leaving these amazing reviews. I sincerely appreciate it. And this really just helps me to continue to get the podcast in front of more people, to help more people to really serve what my passion is. And every time I get a review, it just lights me up and makes my day. So thank you so much. This review that I want to share for the listener of the week is from Trinwise. But what she says is, your real-world experiences and insights are very helpful to me as I grow my business. Your message resonates with me, especially the episode regarding Instagram followers and facing fears as a small business owner. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with us, and keep it going. Thank you so much, Trinwise. I love what you said because so many people, including myself, I've been there, so many people struggle with this Instagram game of waiting to show up until they have more followers, waiting to go on their Instagram stories, waiting to do a reel, waiting to go all in. And people really hold themselves back by waiting for this immaterial number, this magical number, to reach this certain number before they decide to go all in. But if you really break it down, number one, the number of followers doesn't matter. It's connecting with the right people. It's getting those right people to know more about you and your products. And number two, if you're just waiting and waiting for more followers, what that is fear. If you don't feel like you're ready, if you feel like you're waiting for something, the truth is we're never going to be ready. We're never going to be ready to show up on Instagram. We're never going to be ready to make that big investment in our business. And this fear of not being ready, of not feeling ready, it's just something that keeps us in our comfort zone. So I love how Trinwise kind of piece those two together, the Instagram followers and facing fears as a small business owner, because they go so much hand in hand. And thank you so much for your review. I appreciate it so much. So please, Trinwise, if you're listening, DM me your mailing address on Instagram at Monica Little Coaching. I have a little gift that I want to send you. I got these super cute gold keychains from Wonderment Goods, and they say small business owner on them, and they're really, really fun. So I'll be sending those out for the listeners of the week. Thank you so much for being a loyal listener. And remember, to you listening too, when you leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts for the show, you might be featured and get a free gift in the mail too. So thank you so much. But let's dive into today's episode about making money or making a machine. And I want to start off with a story like I always do. And one thing that I want to mention to you is how I see this podcast and the coaching program and everything that I do, all the information that I share is I look at myself as like the guide. Like I have this map, and this map has all these different minds on it, these explosive, destructive minds. And my goal is to have this map in front of me and guide you. So you're not hitting those minds. So you're not hitting these destructive pieces of whatever in the ground that are going to blow up and cause just a hard time for you and your business. And the reason I have this map is because I've been there and I've hit these minds. And my passion is to be a guide for you to make sure you don't hit these minds like I did. So with that, I'm going to bring you back to a story. And if you've ever laid in bed at night, not able to fall asleep, wondering, what am I doing with my small business? When do I throw in the towel? Is this really working? Then chances are you're going to relate to the situation that I was in too. When I was in my second year of plant-based beauty, I was entirely focusing on markets. In 2020, I participated in about 30 markets from April to December. I don't even know if there are 30 weekends in that time frame. I was doing markets Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Any market that I heard of, I applied for, no matter what. I was doing markets weekend after weekend, and I was in this cycle where I would prep inventory all week. I would pack my car with this big tent and all my boxes. I would load up my car, wake up at like 5 a.m., drive. Sometimes I would drive like 2 or 3 hours away for a market, sell all weekend long, come home just burnt out and pretty exhausted, especially as an introvert. So if you're an introvert, then you know how these markets can be pretty exhausting, even for extroverts too. And I would repeat that same thing week after week after week. I signed up for every single market that I came across. And I did make some fast money during that time. I left each market. Some of them were great. I made quite a bit of money. Some of them were pretty slow, and I just barely broke even. And I'm sure there were some where I didn't break even. But during that time, I found one of my old journals recently. And normally I throw out my journals. I just write in my journal every morning, get my thoughts down, and then when the journal is filled up, I throw it out. But this journal, for some reason, I kept it. And I was reading it a few weeks ago. And I wrote in my journal, and this was in 2020 during this time, when is it time to throw in the towel and go back to finding a full-time corporate job? I wasn't making the type of money that I wanted or needed to keep my business afloat, even though I was working so hard. I felt like I was bound by like this ball and chain that I had to do a market every single weekend in order to make that money. But that same ball and chain was weighing my business down. And after that journal entry, I decided to just completely change how I was running my business. It was like a final Hail Mary. And I knew I had to focus in a different direction. I've been doing this market thing for so long, and sure, I'm making some money, but not enough to like really warrant all of the stress, all of the weekend work, all of the exhaustion and the burnout. I was doing all the things, but I wasn't getting to the level that I wanted to. I had to do something different if I wanted to keep my small business going. So instead of focusing on how to make money by doing these markets, I focused on building a machine that would make me money. I learned how to sell on Etsy, get on wholesale platforms, get into more stores, and get my products into subscription boxes. And that's when my business grew. Now I know most small business owners don't want to stop their busy day to try something new. Most small business owners, like my 2020 self, don't want to give up the potential of having a good market and the instant gratification of walking away with money and making some fast cash. It can be so hard to think about pausing a sure thing, something that's in our comfort zone, going to markets every weekend. We know the routine, we've got it down, to focus on something that may feel like a gamble, like building a machine with our business, selling our products on other platforms. Because what if those other platforms don't work? What if I don't get any sales from it? What if it's all for nothing or a failure or a waste of time? It may be a gamble, to focus your time on building a machine and selling your products on other platforms. But it's also a gamble not to. I read this stat that said 30% of small businesses don't make it past their second year. When I hear that stat, I wonder if that would have been me if I didn't change direction. So I want to ask you too, what gamble are you taking with your business? So I actually heard this machine metaphor from my business coach, James Wedmore, this year, and then I realized that's exactly what I did in 2020. And what he teaches on this topic is that most business owners aren't making money because they're focusing on making money fast. But instead of focusing on making money fast, what we really want is to make consistent sales, consistent money. And if you're like me, you want to make consistent sales with less effort over time. And the only way to do that is by building a machine that brings in those consistent sales. But when you're only focusing on making money fast, well, the outcome is pretty obvious, right? You'll keep chasing after that money, exactly like what I was telling you, that situation that I was in 2020. Without consistent sales already coming in, if your business isn't built like a machine and you don't have consistent sales to rely on, then every single month, you might be starting at $0 and you say, okay, I need to make sales again. Let's get to work. So you push and you sell at markets to make some of that quick cash. You end up getting in this type of hamster wheel, reaching for fast money over and over and over and over again because you need to in order to keep your business running. But what happened to me is I started to question, what happens if I want to go on vacation or I need to take a break because I'm so burned out? Then my sales would also take a break. And then you start to panic about how can I make it up? Or what happens when you're working 14-hour days with markets every weekend and you still don't have the consistent sales because you just don't have any more time to focus on growing your business? You may even feel that you're at maximum capacity, that you're struggling to think through the things that you're learning on this podcast that I'm telling you. When are you going to have the time to even look into them further or implement them because your plate is just too full? So if that sounds like you, and chances are you may be feeling burnt out, frustrated, or even like me, wondering when to throw in the towel. What I've realized is that most struggling small business owners make the mistake of thinking if they do more markets, then it will solve their problems. But how many small businesses do you know that are attending market after market after market while they're still working at their full-time job? They still haven't made that big leap. They're still juggling all the things that they're juggling when their goal is to leave their full-time job and have more freedom, but they don't have any of that yet, no matter how many markets they do. Or maybe that might even sound like the situation that you're in right now. And I get it. I completely get it because I was there. I had a call with Julianne from Salita Scents, and she's just the kindest soul. And if you don't follow her on Instagram, you definitely should. She makes amazing candles. And she said something that was really eye-opening to me. She said with her candle business, when she thinks about participating in markets, she thinks about, am I going to be doing this for the next 10 years? And how sustainable is that? For the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, to be doing these markets multiple times per week just to keep my business going. And the truth is, it's not a matter of making money fast, because that's how you burn out. That's how your business closes in the second year. That's how you start to lose passion for your business. That's how you start to question, why am I doing this? What is it all for? It's not a matter of making money fast. It's a matter of building a machine that makes you money. My business grew so much when I started to focus on building a machine that makes me money, when I started to value my time, when I started to prioritize passive income, which is income that comes in over and over and over with less effort over time, like we were talking about earlier, instead of focusing on active income, which is income that you get from the hours that you work. Think about a market, that's active income. You physically have to be there selling your products and then you're making money. As soon as that market is over, you're not making any more money from it. That's active income. You have to be there working those 8 hours. But passive income that you set it up once and it comes in over and over and over with less effort over time, that is how you start to build a machine with your business. And that's how you start to get those consistent sales with less effort. That makes it easier on you to run your business. And one of the easiest ways to do that, to build that passive income, is something that like 50% of people listening are going to roll their eyes and say, "Are you serious?" Because they have already said, "I'm not doing this." But I want you to be open-minded. One of the easiest ways to create passive income is through Etsy. For me personally, I've been able to grow my Etsy shop to over 5,000 sales and almost $100,000 in one of the most saturated markets on Etsy, organic skincare. That is one of the saturated markets that you can find: jewelry, candles, stationery, digital products, skincare. Super, super saturated on Etsy, but I've been able to grow my Etsy shop. And now it runs as passive income for me without me having to do anything. I've built my Etsy shop in a way that I can get those consistent sales, and that is the foundation of my business. You have to lay the foundation before you can build the walls, and this is my foundation. It's my foundation to the point that the only reason I'm here right now on this podcast, able to also run Product Biz Academy, the product coaching program that I run, is because I've built my plant-based beauty business like a machine. If plant-based beauty wasn't like a machine, I wouldn't be here right now. But I've built plant-based beauty for those consistent sales that are passive income that keep coming over and over and over, that I have this time to start another business. But imagine if you had that time from your business bringing in passive income. What would you do? Maybe instead of starting another business, you'd have more time with your family, or go on that vacation that you've always wanted, or just take a relaxing weekend off to yourself where you don't have to work. You don't feel forced to work. You don't feel like you have to get more done to get more sales in because you've already built something that's bringing in passive income for you. And I get it. There is a lot of stigma about Etsy. I totally get it. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see is that small business owners don't lean into the potential and the long-term game with Etsy. There's this long-term vision that we have to have when we think about putting our products on other platforms like Etsy. It's to build momentum and visibility now and for the rest of the year. To build momentum and visibility moving into 2023, next year and onwards. It's to set you up for easy, consistent passive income to keep your business growing. So I want to mention a couple things that I hear about Etsy over and over, just to kind of debunk these myths and get you excited about the potential with Etsy. Because I think what happens is a lot of people just aren't excited about it. They've heard from others that it's too saturated, it takes too much time, it's just not possible. So then we start to believe what we've heard from others, or maybe we have tried and it just hasn't worked just yet. So there's a couple myths that I want to debunk for you. And to lay the overall theme of these myths is the first general one, which is so many people think that Etsy just doesn't work. It's just not possible. And what I want to say to that is it's not true, because we've just forgotten how to look for and how to create the opportunity where others have deemed it to be too hard. So think about people who say that Etsy is too saturated. And I want to acknowledge that and say, you're right. Etsy is so saturated. As a small business owner, we are in a very saturated market. In Etsy, outside of Etsy, there's people who make similar products to us. It is a hard place to be. I totally get it. But what I mentioned in episode 1 is similar to what I'm going to say here about Etsy. Etsy is saturated with small business owners that I like to call dabblers. The people who list their products, create their Etsy shop really quick, don't really put a lot of thought or intention into it, and they don't see sales right away, so they give up on their shop or they just leave their products up there. They may get a couple sales here or there, but they haven't invested the time or energy to actually get it right. So Etsy is 100% saturated with so many small business dabblers. But Etsy is not saturated with dedicated small business owners who are willing and committed to get it right. The ones that are investing the time, the energy, the resource to figure it out the right way. And if I can get my small little share on Etsy in one of the most saturated markets on Etsy, then I want you to take that as proof that you can do it too. Because if I can do it, then that means that it's possible. And trust me when I say that no one has ever said learning how to optimize has been the biggest mistake that I ever made. It is one of the best places to get your products in front of people that are shopping small businesses and want to support small businesses. The other myth that I want to debunk really quick is how a lot of people say that getting set up on Etsy takes a lot of time and it can be pretty challenging and it's time consuming and takes a lot of effort. And there's two things that I want to say to that. So first, anything worth doing is going to take time and effort. You just have to see the potential. You have to believe in the potential. And you have to be willing to put that effort in order to make it happen. But there's ways to make it easier. And one of them is by joining the webinar that I'm hosting on June 29th that I will share with you next. And the other thing that I want to mention about Etsy taking up a lot of time is in the grand scheme of things, Etsy is probably one of the easiest platforms to get set up and see results from. So if you think about marketing, on your own Instagram profile, how much time do we spend making Instagram stories, making Instagram reels? I can tell you sometimes one reel takes me like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it drives me crazy. How much time do we spend writing out captions and posting on Instagram? That is us doing our own marketing. Those are our own marketing initiatives to get people to our site to purchase our products. And compare that to getting your listings on Etsy the right way and having Etsy do all the marketing for you. Etsy brings the customers to your Etsy shop page. Etsy does the marketing for you. Etsy has ads that are on TV. Etsy does Facebook ads to get people onto their platform. Etsy's doing all the marketing for us. So in reality, the amount of time that it takes for us to optimize Etsy and get it right, compared to how much time we spend on our own marketing on Instagram is just one example. The time investment, the energy investment is so much lower on Etsy because Etsy is a platform that's doing a lot of that marketing work for you. And that's one of the biggest benefits of Etsy. So we've talked about how some people say Etsy is saturated. We've talked about how some people say Etsy is too challenging or too time consuming or too hard to do. And the last thing that I want to leave you with is this myth that keywords, titles, tags, and ads are the only way to be successful on Etsy. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because the webinar that I'm hosting on June 29th, all about Etsy and how to get your product seen on Etsy, is going to go into detail on this. I'm not going to sit there and give you the Google definition of what is SEO, how does SEO work, how to capitalize SEO, what are titles and tags on Etsy. I'm not going to give you that because you can Google that on your own. And there's so much more to Etsy, so many simple and particular steps that you can take to get your product seen on Etsy, to get customer trust and to get those transactions and those sales and those orders that we want. I have a 3-part method on how to get your product seen on Etsy. This is a method that I used specifically on my Etsy shop to get more sales. I didn't just get lucky on Etsy and all of a sudden had all these orders that were coming through. I was super intentional with everything that I tested, everything that I tried, everything that I learned. And like I said right at the beginning, what I shared with you is I am the guide. So in this webinar, I am sharing the map, the Etsy map of what works, what minds to watch out for, how to get around those minds, and how to get Etsy to really show your products to customers so you can get more sales on that platform. And start building that machine, building that passive income, start reaching all of the amazing dreams and goals that we have for yourself. And it all starts, at least one piece of it, one easy, amazing, fun piece of it is Etsy. And I really hope to see you there. So if you're interested in joining, I do want to mention that this webinar is for all skill levels of Etsy. If you're new to Etsy, if you're thinking about going on Etsy, if you've tried everything on Etsy and you feel frustrated and stuck, if you've given up on Etsy, if you hate Etsy, I would love for you, no matter what category you are in, for you to join. If you've been to any of the other webinars that I've co-hosted, then you know that I over-deliver. So you're going to walk away with some really awesome insights on Etsy that I guarantee you've never looked at it in that way before. And you're going to walk away with some new perspectives on how to run your business too. And all of this will help you to get your product seen on Etsy. I know that is the number one thing: visibility on Etsy, getting shown up in searches, really getting in front of that warm audience that Etsy creates so we get some benefit from it. And I'm going to talk you through my 3-step method and a couple other fun things just to make sure that we are building that machine on Etsy. And I can't wait to see you there. So if you are interested in joining, please go to etsy.theproductbizpodcast.com. All you have to do is put in your email address and your name. Then you will get the automated link to join. It's Wednesday, June 29th at 11 a.m. Central Time. So I really hope that you will put the time aside to join me, and I can't wait to see you there. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is @MonicaLittleCoaching. And with that, I will see you on the next episode of the Product Biz Podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here inside the Product Biz Podcast. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe and to leave a 5-star review. And if you're interested in learning more about Product Biz Academy, my signature group coaching program for handmade small business owners like you who are looking to create consistent online sales with their business, then go to theproductbizpodcast.com to join the waitlist. Doors are currently closed, but you'll be first notified when they reopen. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Product Biz Podcast.